Welcome everybody to Group Work 9. I've been so looking forward to this. We're going to be talking about the most versatile DAX function, which is calculate. So I'm going to run through the objectives, and we're going to be looking at calculate and spending quite a bit of time. We've got lots and lots of examples and practice exercises for you to work through. We'll be looking at the AND function, which will help us with the filters component of the calculate function. All works really well in filters as well, and again we'll be having lots of practice with that and some examples. We'll look at the date function, the month function, and again a lot of emphasis on presentation, and presentation, guys. So lots to get our teeth into, and I'll see you in Group Work 9. Okay, here we go, guys. I'm on page 54 of the user guide, and we're going to spend quite a bit of time on the calculate function. It's the most powerful and versatile expression in DAX, and it's very similar to sum ifs in Excel. If you've got experience with sum ifs, they're super duper functions available to us that can perform all kinds of Excel witchcraft. Absolutely super, but calculate is supercharged. It's on steroids. Now I'm not going to go super technical into the inner workings of the calculate function. That would probably take the whole first year of a university course. It's that involved and that powerful. We're really only going to scratch the surface in this beginner's course into PowerPivot and data modelling, but I hope to achieve giving you a good solid foundation about some of its capabilities. Without getting too techy, when we were learning about the related and the related table functions, we recreated what the filter context in pivot tables was doing in the background, or I should really say what the DAX engine was doing in the background when it's pulling data from the lookup tables and the data tables and displaying the results in our pivot tables. I think of calculate a little bit like the slot machines or the one-arm bandits if you're in the UK, that when you pull that lever, then it's generating that filter context again in the background. It's pulling all of that information from lookup tables, but before it displays in the pivot table, it stops to look at the filters that we apply in the calculate expression. I think it's probably best if we just get on with it and you can have a look. So at the top of page 54, I've stated that calculate contains an expression and then a filter, or indeed many filters. Now the expression can be any predefined measure, and then a single or multiple filters can be inserted afterwards. So I've got a little table there that shows on the left hand side typical expressions that we can use in the calculate function, and I've got examples such as the total sales there. We've got number of customers, but they're predefined measures that we've already created. We can use a sum function and then state the table name and the column, and then following that expression we can have a filter, single filter or multiple filters. And again in the table I've got some examples there that we could filter by customer table and the gender column and female, or products table, the colour column, and we want just blue products. So what we're going to do is focus on yearly sales, and we're going to use the calculate function to display 2003 sales. So the first thing we're going to do is insert a new pivot table into a new worksheet. So let's do that. So new worksheet, OK, and it's going to be Group Work 9. And let's just reposition that to the right of practice exercise 8. And in our pivot table, in the rows, we're going to insert the year from the sales table into the rows drop zone and our total sales into our values area. So we'll create a new measure, and it's going to be in the sales table, and it's called 2003 sales. Okay, so we're using the calculate function. I just put a C in, and it's the first function in IntelliSense, so I'll use the tab, and you can see from the tooltip there that it consists of an expression, comma, and a filter, a single filter or multiple filters. So we want total sales, which is our predefined measure. It's the second one in, comma. Then we get into new territory and enter a filter. Now we want sales from the year 2003. So our year column is in the sales table, and there's sales in IntelliSense. I'm going to use my mouse to find the year. There it is there. And I'm going to use tab, and then a space equals space 2003. We don't have to have the spaces, I'm just doing that for clarity at the moment. That's it, guys. So we're asking calculate for the total sales for the year 2003, and then we just finish up with a closing parenthesis. It's sales, so it's going to be currency, and we're going to reduce to 0 decimal places. So let's just check this. So spaces are permitted, so between the equals and the 2003, that's totally legal. We don't need quotes around the year 2003 because it's a number. We've completed our expression with a closing parenthesis. Let's check that the formula and the syntax is okay. That looks good. And currency 0 decimal places, and we'll just click on OK. So it hasn't appeared in the pivot table, so I'm just going to pull it from the pivot table field list and just pop it into the rows area, into the values area. So the result should be fairly instinctive. You may have expected years other than 2003 to display zeros. However, the calculate function alters the filter context and overrides the results with that of the filter condition in the function. So the filter condition was the sales year of 2003. So although in our pivot table we've got year 2001, that's the analogy I was painting earlier on about the one-armed bandit and the slot machines, that before it actually displays in our pivot table, when you pull that lever, in the background the DAX engine is filtering our tables, our lookup tables, and before it presents, it puts the brakes on and it says, hang on a second, I've got to check the filter context of the calculate function here, and that's telling me to display 2003. So it overrides the filter context of the pivot table, and it says, I know that you're saying 2001 on the pivot table, but the calculate filter is telling me, the pivot table, to display results for 2003. So next we're going to add the month field. There it is there. And we're going to pop that just underneath the year in the rows drop zone. And as you've probably noticed in practice exercise 8, that the month field displayed in alphabetical order, and we've got to sort that out. So we're going to go back to the sales sheet in the data model window. Let's just find our date fields. If I select the month column, and on the home tab we've got sort by column. So if I click on that, month is displayed here because we've selected it in the background, and we want to sort by the month number. Okay, does that make sense, guys? So we're sorting the month column by the month number that goes from 1 to 12. We click on OK. We'll return to our group work 9, and that sorts our problem out. That has sorted our months beautifully. Let's just go back to practice exercise 8 and see that it has updated our pivot table results here as well, and it certainly has. Brilliant. Let's just go back to group work 9 and just have a look. Try to understand exactly what's going on here. So you might have to read that important concept alert on page 57 a few times for that to actually sink in. It does take a few times. I had to read it a few times myself before the penny actually dropped as to what's going on here. But with a few more examples and the practice exercises, guys, it's not quite as scary as it sounds. Right, I think I might wrap up there because this is getting a bit too long, and then we'll continue our calculate journey in the next exercise. Hang on in there, guys.